Hello and welcome to Reading the Gospels Together for Friday, April the 17th. Today we're looking at Matthew chapter 24. Now many people will talk about this chapter as a preview of the end times, but there are in fact several timelines happening: historical and timeless present and future. In terms of historical, Jesus is telling the disciples about the cataclysmic events which will happen within a generation, namely the war with the Romans and the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. It must have been difficult for the disciples to believe that the temple, perhaps the most magnificent building in the world, was just nearing completion after 40 years of intense construction. It was the very center and symbol of their faith, but Jesus said it was about to be destroyed. Not one stone left on another, he said. And yet, between 66 and 70 AD, a terrible war did indeed sweep across Israel, and the Romans focused the terrifying might of their military to get the job done. When it was over, as Jesus had said, not one stone of the temple was left upon another. That which we see today when we go to Israel are the remains of the Temple Mount, the vast platform upon which the temple had been located. But of the temple itself, nothing remains. Difficult to believe though it may be, the nation regathered itself sufficiently to mount another rebellion, this one in 132 AD, under the self-styled Messiah, Simon Bar Kokhba. This time the Romans under Emperor Hadrian had enough. They not only defeated Bar Kokhba's forces, they utterly destroyed Jerusalem, rebuilding it as a Roman city which they named Aelia Capitolina, after the Roman Capitoline gods. Even the whole country was renamed using the name of the historical enemies of the Jews, the Philistines, or as we say today, Palestine. The area would become a backwater province of successive empires until it became a country again in 1948. Despite these upheavals, Christianity persevered, warned by Jesus in the prophecies of this chapter that when you see these things happening, run. The Christians did not participate in the rebellion against Rome, but they fled elsewhere, many to what is now Jordan, many to what is now Turkey. Of course, thanks to the Apostle Paul and others, the church had already spread far beyond the confines of Israel, throughout Asia Minor and into Europe. Thomas had brought the gospel to India, Mark into Egypt, and so on. The church was on the move. That's the historical which Jesus is addressing in this chapter. Read it again with that situation in mind. Now, the timeless present is addressed by Jesus when he speaks about the persecutions which will befall the church, an all too real event in the life of the church and throughout the ages in various parts of the world. False messiahs will come again. The Stalins, Hitlers, and Husseins of the world who will elevate themselves to godlike status, they simply come and go, falling into ignominious obscurity after wrecking many cultures and wreaking untold damage. They're not the answer, says Jesus. Only the one true God is the source of hope and salvation. Watch for him. Read the passage again with the historical timeless present in mind. Now, the passage deals with the future as well, the coming again of Jesus. Life will be carrying on as normal, he says. People eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage, says Jesus, when the time of return arrives. And so, says Jesus again and again in countless parables and admonitions, be ready, keep watch. He closes the chapter with a parable about a faithful and wise servant who's busy at the work the master has given him, caring for those for whom he's responsible. Don't be like the wicked servant, says Jesus, who says to himself, oh, the master's been gone a long time and likely will be gone longer still. This servant fails to care for others, instead indulging himself with riotous living. When the master unexpectedly returns, it will be bad for that servant. The lesson of this chapter is be ready. There have been tough times, and there will be tough times again. It will not always be easy to hold on to your faith, but hold tight to what you have been taught. God is faithful and will see you through. Others will say that they're the answer to the troubles of the world, but they will be proven false. Our job is to be faithful to God, doing the work that we've been given to do, trusting that God is with us no matter the circumstances in which we find ourselves, and God will bring us safely home to himself. Now tomorrow when we read chapter 25, we'll hear some more parables along this same theme, including the famous parable of the sheep and the goats. Remember as you read them that each parable has one central point. What's the main point of each one? When reading a parable, it's helpful to find yourself in the story, relating the parable to your own experience. Which character are you? What situation in your life does this parable bring to mind? Happy reading, and I'll see you tomorrow.